upset and then accusing them of being belligerent is asinine. Of course we're emotional creatures. Hello. And of course things will upset you. And unfortunately people in power have no compassion for that, even though, here's the interesting thing about human nature. The very people, for example, who will play the high moral ground are the same people who, do things like become pedophiles. There's a strange way that our mind somehow justifies our behavior, but won't justify something even remotely close for someone else. It's an area I'd like to conduct much more research in when I have more time. But it fascinates me how people are like that. They don't see what they do, but you have to toe the line. So accusing a customer or getting a customer angry and then stating, well, you're belligerent, we don't have to talk to you, you're belligerent, we need to throw you out, you're belligerent, we need to arrest you. Seriously, wake up. That's childish behavior. At the end of the day, don't get the customer to the point where they are belligerent. Now, granted, there are some people who are plain jerks. You can't reason with them, you can't talk with them, you can't do anything. But that is such a small percentage, way under 1%. Most people will at least sit down with you. They may state that they'll never do business with you. But let this parting be memorable as the one that sets the standard. Because these people have probably parted ways with other companies and will part ways with other companies. But let them remember yours, and you be the one that sets the standard on a parting of ways. Because it's a small world. You never know when you intersect again. Number 5, if you can't say anything empathetic, keep your mouth shut. Air Canada for me is the worst airline I've ever traveled on, because it's consistent. It's consistent in the bad service that I get. And you try to explain something to their gate agents, and it's like talking to a wall. They don't hear a single thing that you say, and then they just repeat over and over what they stated. It's better to keep your mouth shut, because by having a customer, passenger, whatever, say something and explain it to you in great detail in an intelligent way that you can understand, and you completely obliterate everything that they've said and then non-empathetically reply, what does that tell you? So the same thing you have to train your people in your company. The lower level people, and I say lower level, I'm saying the ones that end up dealing with the front lines, if you will, the public directly. Or in the case of an airline, for example, the gate agents who are dealing with them, or the flight attendants. I don't mean that they're lower level people, but it's a lower level situation, because obviously at the higher level you don't deal with the public, so life is good or better. So these people need to be trained to be empathetic. Unfortunately, a lot of companies hire someone, they think that the person's a nice person, but of course they're going to put on their best show, just like on a first date, when they're being interviewed. But you don't know how they deal with things. Like, look at the many different stores that we have, the many different services that we have. The smaller ones that aren't part of a franchise, that are run by a person, you'll see a lot of this in Europe. The customer service level depends on that person and how they see the world and how they put things together. Unfortunately, that's where we're losing a lot, because you have each person with their point of view on how things are run, injecting that into the economy. And so for us, the consumer, it's unpredictable what your customer service level is, unless you're with a large chain or with a franchise that has certain standards. So it's an interesting situation. But having said that, we need to spend more time training our staff. Tell them what's okay, what's not okay. You have to give them some level of discretion, some level of decision making to where if something goes wrong, you are allowed to do X, Y, Z. You don't need to ask me, just do it. Take care of the person. Taking care of the person right then and there, it's fantastic. Because especially in the case of airlines, people miss flights, as I did with Air Canada. Their whole schedule gets rearranged. They may end up having to go to another airline to book another flight at their own expense. It's just one thing after the other. So please, if your staff or yourself can't say anything empathetic, say nothing. Because being unempathetic or being like a machine just reading the rules over and over, or using the third person excuse, that's what management says. So as a customer, my answer would be, see, your management says that customers don't matter and it's not an issue what our concerns are. It's basically what they're saying. So be careful when your staff uses the third person excuse. I mean, it's very valuable, very useful at times. But you've got to know when to use it, and it has to be used right, because otherwise they're attributing to management qualities that management may not even have. And negative qualities, of course, not positive qualities. The next one, I'm going to pause here for a second, like somebody's screaming outside. The next one, be careful with your words and the positioning of your firm. Unfortunately, I've seen too much of this with CEOs who don't own their own firm, or presidents, or VPs of departments. Remember the day when you went to this company and you were going to be so happy to get a job? And they offered you a job. They offered you a career, a lifestyle. They afforded you pleasures that you now have. You raised your family with that money that you made. You went out on beautiful vacations. Well, you need to treat that company like your baby. She treated you well, you treat her well. Unfortunately, a lot of managers have lost sight of this. They have to remember that this company is completely dependent on the people in it. A corporate structure, or an LLC, or an LLP is just that. A corporate structure, or a structure, if you will. It's not a human being. It has no life of its own. It can't educate you to tell you what to do or what not to do. But if you think of the reputation of your company as paramount to everything, you're going to find you'll do the right thing. I think that's all I need to say on that. Oh, number 7. I can't believe that people still don't do that. If you have an aggrieved party and you know who they are, you know how to contact them, do it ASAP. And don't. I hate emails. Don't use an email. Do not text them. Pick up the phone. Call them. Hello, this is the president of Acme Corporation. I understand that you had a problem. I'm here to fix it. Would you be kind enough to call me back at this number? If you don't speak with this party, what's going to happen? In their mind, cognitive dissonance, or even if there's no cognitive dissonance required, even if it's just the facts, they're dragged off an airline by police, treated worse than you treat cargo, gets a concussion, I think a couple of busted teeth if I'm not mistaken, something like that. But you have something to complain about. Somebody should have contacted this person. Somebody should have talked to him from the airline and stated, look, doctor, I heard about this disaster. Do you mind if we get together either on Skype, or if we're in the same city, have a dinner and discuss it? And I'm very sorry for how you feel. I didn't expect this in my wildest dreams, but here I am. I have to deal with it. Can you help me do that? You'll find that the other person may be extremely reasonable with you. Don't be surprised that there is good in people. Nowadays in the business world, we don't see much of it. I mean, that's a given. But there is good in most people. And not everybody is bad, regardless of how they act. And, maybe he stated, look, I have patience. I need to be on this plane. I mean, we have lives, and more importantly, even I, who am a frequent flyer, I don't have time to read frequent flyer magazines, frankly. So I didn't know that even if I buy a ticket and it's confirmed, you can throw me off the plane, and if I don't get off, you can drag me off. I had no idea. How would he know? Now, he may have had some simple checkups to do, or he may be a cardiothoracic surgeon conducting surgery on somebody who may die in 48 hours. He didn't know. So you want to contact them and explain to them a few things. Say, by the way, I know you didn't know this, but X, Y, Z, and I know that you're not aware, but you should have really got off the plane. We did make a mistake. We didn't offer you the full 1,300. We should have. But listen, I'll tell you what. I'll give you a couple of years. You and your wife fly wherever you want on us. It's on a standby basis, but you can fly. So what does it cost you to put them on a standby basis? Not very much, right? Nothing. Well, not nothing, but you know what I mean. You've got empty seats anyway. Let the man travel all over the world. Do you think he wouldn't have settled? I don't know. I mean, nobody knows. But I think most people would have said, you know what? Make it 3 years, you got a deal. You can't always take it up in 2, especially if you're a doctor. Ooh, number 8, and that's the last one. I'm probably the right person to talk to you about number 8 to work it out before it becomes a lawsuit. A lawsuit is like going to hell and turning up the flames. Positioning is involved. You have to pick a side. You have to stick by the side. The other side's going to be defensive, which will upset you. You'll be defensive, which will upset them. You're going to go back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. I'm not a big fan of litigation at all. I do enjoy the sport of it. I do enjoy the strategy behind it. I mean, it can be a lot of fun from that perspective, but I would rather not be a litigator. I'd rather be a negotiator, but you can't always negotiate. Sometimes the other side won't negotiate with you. Sometimes the party who's been injured wants to have the opportunity of discovery and being able to find out what happened in the case. So there are a number of reasons why people may want to litigate rather than negotiate. But when you litigate, it's rare that at the end of the fight, both of you shake hands. This is not a boxing match. This is I'm going to hurt you, and it's going to cost you financially. It's going to affect your sleep. It's going to take up your resources. It's going to mess you up. Litigation is a horrible thing. Avoid it at all costs. But once the person has hired a lawyer, by law you can't contact them, except through your own lawyer to their lawyer. At that point, hope to God they have a reasonable lawyer, because there's some lawyers who just want to fight, want to hurt you, they don't get law. It's not meant to be a fight. They should take up MMA. But we deal with people like that, and they're completely unreasonable. They're actually more unreasonable sometimes than their clients. And I wish they weren't like that, because that's not what law is about. It should be a gentlemanly sport. But at the end of the day, once you've lost communication with the person directly, it's in the hands of a legal system and how their lawyer is guiding them. It's basically over for you. It's fried. So I'm hoping these give you some ideas. Looking forward to your input. You're welcome to email me. If I say the email, because it's transcribed, it's going to end up on all these spam lists, but it's on our website. You can find it out. Connect. Let's have a conversation. Share your experiences so that we can put together another program that's even more effective. And I hope that your next crisis ends up being a positive experience for both you and your customer. And it might not be something you have to be afraid of, but look at it as a way of dealing with a high-level challenge when you have met that high level and can make it all happen in a positive way. Good luck.